In what many see as a very shocking move, NASCAR has actually rescinded the penalty that they had against William Byron after his spat with Denny Hamlin at the Texas Motor Speedway. And this, of course, is going to divide people right down the middle. So what we're going to look at today is the penalty itself, basically the ripple effect of this happening, as well as talking about what both sides would think on the issue, and then I'll just sort of give what I think on it. So, starting off, it was reported by Bob Pockrass and others today that the appeals panel has rescinded the points penalty against William Byron. The fine increased to $100,000. Byron goes from 10th in the standings at 11 points below the cut line to 7th in the standings and 14 points above the cut line. Now, right off the bat, this is going to have a huge ripple effect going into the Charlotte Roval. William Byron, before the appeal had happened, was going into this race probably having to look at whether he was going to go for stage points or a win, because whatever he chose, probably the competition he'd go against would choose against. Plus, he has some pretty good road course competition to go against with it. But now, being 14 points above the cut line, you have a pretty good gap to either go for the win if you want to and still have enough points to make it to the next round, or get a bunch of stage points and just pad that lead. It is a huge change of strategy for him, as well as for guys like Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe on the cut line, who now, instead of being tied for that spot, are below the cut line and having to beat certain drivers like Daniel Suarez, for instance. This, to me, is going to be the biggest story going into the weekend. All the stuff that you saw about Toyota racing development and everything like that, all the stuff you saw about Call League, all this, I think it's all going to take a back seat to the way that this has changed the complete complexion of the NASCAR playoffs in the Cup Series. Now, I know one person who's not going to be happy about it is Denny Hamlin. Let's be real. He's the one who got the worst end of this deal, and if he ends up getting eliminated, if something happens and he can point back to losing ground at Texas, I have a feeling he is going to get back at William Byron. Now, there's a lot of people who have taken sides on this one. There's a lot of very pro-Hendrick people who are saying, you know what, it's warranted. Crashing somebody under caution is not a good move. You have other people that are big Byron fans who say this is way too harsh of a penalty. Yes, there should be a penalty, but not with points. And once again, this debate is going to get churned back up the way it was when it was given out. And looking at those who say that this penalty was too harsh to start with, a lot of them will say that other drivers have done way worse, teams have cheated way worse, and yet they get a lesser penalty for this. This is basically the same penalty Ty Gibbs got for nearly shoving someone else's car into 4 unprotected members of either crews or NASCAR officiating and could have actually killed people, versus what they see as a mistake, and from what a lot of people say is William Byron's mistake on this whole deal. Now, I get where people are coming from with that, even if I might not completely agree with it. From what Byron made it sound like is he tried to get into Denny Hamlin, but he did not try to crash him straight up off of that merit alone. He was just trying to get a message across and accidentally moved him, and because the intent was not there, well, maybe he shouldn't be penalized for it. And to penalize something that was an accident that really didn't harm anyone whatsoever except for one driver who was able to recover at the end of the race, it shouldn't be penalized the same way as Ty Gibbs' penalty, which was much more serious with a driver who has had a lot more outbursts like this. This was just William Byron standing up for himself, and NASCAR shouldn't penalize that. It should be drivers basically having a driver's code and paying each other back or getting it done themselves. Now, to others, they say that this is warranted. This was under caution, whether it was intended or not. NASCAR should penalize somebody if they're going to put maybe safety workers at risk, those on pit road at risk since there's no pit wall, and that doing this when you're supposed to be safe under caution is the wrong move all around, and it sets a terrible precedent for NASCAR to allow something like this to go forward. That basically, unless somebody gets hurt, they're not going to penalize it, and they might even only penalize off of the fan reaction alone. That's what a lot of people who are against it being rescinded have said, is that They're basically just governing off of fan reaction. I don't necessarily agree with that much, but I understand where people are coming from when they say that it's not a safe precedent to wreck people under caution. That is something that is harmful both to the pocketbooks of the teams, to possible people that they might not see, and while anything might be unintended, it doesn't matter what the intention is when somebody gets hurt. As for me, I have a bit of a more in the middle response to this. Now, I do think 25 points was a bit excessive by NASCAR. The more I've had to think about it over the last couple of weeks, it does seem like penalizing this the same as Ty Gibbs was the wrong move. And I think that at the same time, having something like this occur under the caution flag when people are trying to be more safe on pit road is again the wrong move. I think that there's a gray area here that NASCAR needs to address, and basically just finding him money is the wrong move with this. We've seen before where drivers have been penalized for stuff on and off the track with points, and NASCAR holds up their end of the bargain and maybe takes down the monetary fine. But with a monetary only fine, that really is something that's not going to affect William Byron. He's a NASCAR driver, a race car driver who makes millions of dollars a year with a team that makes millions of dollars a year. They can easily pay $100,000, and if William Byron moves on to the next round of the playoffs or to the Final Four or maybe even wins the championship, that penalty gets paid off easily with just performance alone, and it's a drop in the bucket of a championship season. What I would say would be the more fair penalty is to have the current $100,000 penalty to prove, hey, you need to cool it down on the cool down period of any race, but at the same time, maybe have a 15 or a 10-point penalty. Something that does actually hurt Byron in points, puts him right on that cut line still, but at the same time, is not almost season ending for something that was an accident. There should be a bit for intent, but intent should not be the entire way that NASCAR governs this. So that's really what I think about this. I'm taking a bit of an in the middle one, but there should have still been a points penalty in my opinion. But I've given my opinion. I've given opinions of many more. I want to hear yours in the comment section down below. So leave me a comment down there. Should William Byron have been penalized more, less, kept it the same? What do you think? Let me know down there, and while you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more NASCAR content throughout the week, weekend, year, whatever it might be. To all my channel members, thank you so much for your continued support. So until next time, have a good one.